The Champions League previews are back. Let's go.
I get those goosebumps every time.
I just have to get the big fella off the bench.
Could this be their last chance now? In it comes, Monster to the front! He scored! Harry Monster scored!
I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too numb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hind to throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, flying rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype.
Hello. We are back again. We do not stop here on Loaded Mag NUFC. Welcome to our Champions League match preview. And I've got to admit, feeling good right now, Chris. Another win on the belt this weekend. How are you? How's things?
Very good, mate. Yeah. Like you, Pete, I'm feeling confident after the emphatic win against Palace on Saturday, which was much needed. But yeah, obviously we've made a strong start to our first Champions League campaign in 20 years. We've got 4 points on the board, top of the table, and another test. But this is what happens in the Champions League, isn't it? You come up against top teams every game, and none more so than Borussia Dortmund. So yeah, looking forward to having our guests Anton and Sarah on tonight, and talking things all Champions League. We're now switching our attention from the Premier League back to the Champions League, and can't wait.
Definitely, and it's what we're gonna have to get used to, I think. Is to come switching our attention from Premier League to Champions League. Fingers crossed, anyway. But look, welcome to everyone in the chat. Great to have so many people in the chat already. And as well, welcome to Howard. Became a member, a loaded ultra, should we say. A new member for the channel. Great to have you on board, Howard. And welcome to so many already in there. N9, welcome to you. PDK, welcome to you, mate. All right, to Bill, Craig Lee, Nathan Page. We've got so many others in the chat as well. Alan Thompson's in there. There's a few questions already coming in. David Cook's in the house, as well as Leon, and many, many more. Great to see you all in there, and welcome. And of course, it's not an away days without having the opposition view, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome in not one, but two. Get fans of Borussia Dortmund. It's done it again. I told you. I don't know how it happens. The balloons come up. They must think it's my birthday. I've got no idea what's going on. But it's a pleasure to welcome two fantastic guests to come on and talk all things Borussia Dortmund. So from the Glasgow Borussian fan group, we have Anton. Welcome, Anton.
Hello. How are you doing?
And we have Sarah from the BVB Orlando.
Cheers.
Hey, welcome both. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. So thank you for coming and taking time to join us. Sorry about the balloons, by the way. I don't know why it happened. Just these random things just happen to when I'm on the show. But
it just adds to the excitement.
It does. It does. It is a happy time. And Chris will testify to that for sure. But look, first things first. We've got yourself, Anton, from Glasgow. We've got yourself, Sarah, from Orlando. I just want to know, I think everyone wants to know, how did you become Borussia Dortmund fans? So, Anton, how did this all come about for you to be following the yellow and black?
Yeah, 1992, Celtic played Borussia Dortmund. I'm a Celtic fan first, and then obviously we got Borussia Dortmund in the old UEFA Cup. The away fans were amazing that night. They beat Celtic 2-1, and the strip, the famous neon yellow strips, and it just got me attracted, and I kind of took it from there. And as I got older and that, a few Scottish players obviously played for them as well in the past. Paul Lambert, Murdo McLeod, briefly Scott Booth as well. But just the strip and the fans was a kind of real attraction for me, and then obviously just kicked on for there.
Definitely, it is an iconic strip. It does really stand out for sure. And what about yourself, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm kind of a newer fan. I've been following BVB just since 2014. Prior to that, I'd been really obsessed with the German national team. And after the World Cup win, I was just so hooked on the sport. I was like, I need more football, and happened to catch a match between Bayern and BVB. The commentators just kept going on and on about BVB being the underdog, and I was just obsessed from that moment on because I'm a sucker for the underdog. And now I proudly say that I bleed black and yellow.
Love it. But no, great to always hear the stories about how fans come to support their club. But the most important thing is that you support your club, and it's great to see you've got representatives from both sides of the pond, really, which is great. But there was one comment in the chat, Chris, from Craig. I think he just put it up a minute ago. It says, "Is it just me, or does the graphic in the black and yellow loom like the Disney symbol?"
Yes.
So from the BVB Orlando, is that true? Is that the Disney symbol?
It is. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't want to run the risk of copyright infringement. Please don't report me to the House of Mouse. But yeah, it absolutely is very much a play on the Disney logo because I'm in Orlando.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. No, but great to hear your stories. And look, I want to talk about Borussia Dortmund in a little bit of detail as well. From your perspective, how have you made what have you made to your start of the season in general? So first and foremost, here's the current, or I feel like it's up to date, could have changed. There's some fixtures today, but you're sitting fourth in the Bundesliga, 20 points. You've got 6 wins on sort of notched on your belt already. How would you assess your start of the season, Anton? Like, is it what you would expected? Would you expect it to be higher, top of the league, or is it is it sort of a run of the mill to you?
Yeah, well, apart from the Heidenheim result, we're 2-0 up against a team that hadn't acquired any points in the Bundesliga in the first season. Kind of lost that. Well, ended up drawing 2-2, but it feels like more of a defeat. That's probably been the only thing that's been a bit annoying, but I think that's what I kind of like about it is that a couple of scrappy 1-0 victories, whereas maybe seasons past they would have been draws or defeat. So I'm kind of liking that, and still in touch as well, even if it's not the best start, but definitely kept kind of at the top end of the table. Keep yourselves in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So? I want to ask you, Sarah, like, what are your sort of aspirations in the Bundesliga this season? Like, where do you see yourselves competing? Do you see yourselves competing for the league title? I think it's been a number of years since you actually won it. And if I'm right in thinking, were you really close? Was it last season? Winning the league? I don't want to bring back bad memories, but I just can remember it in the back of my mind that you were really, really close.
Yes, the wound is still very fresh for many of us. And it came down to, I think, goal differential, so that just really made it even more bitter for so many of us. I think our hope collectively is always for us to, try and win the title. And where we're sitting right now, even though, like Anton said, the start to the season was not our best, and, anyway, it was really kind of disappointing on many levels. But I think, again, based on where we are right now, it's still a possibility. We're not even halfway through the season. So, anything can still happen, I think, at this point.
No, definitely. Yeah. Anton, I'll come back to you. In your opinion, what do you make of kind of the Bundesliga? Because we're in a position now, and I think, Chris, you might agree with me. We're in a position now where Man City are on the verge potentially this season of breaking the record of winning 4 Premier Leagues in a row.
Yeah.
That's not happened before. I think Man United were the last ones to do 3 in a row. But in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich have won it so many years now. Is there a need from the league, from what you observe and following the league? Is there a need from not just Borussia Dortmund but another team to win and kind of dethrone Bayern Munich? And do you see you as the team to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think possibly RB Leipzig as well. They'll have aspirations to kind of go in and win a title at some point as well. But similar to what you said about the Premier League, like no team in England winning it 4 in a row. If I'm correct, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think before Bayern had kind of stormed away over the last 11 years winning the league, before that is I think it was the most it had been won in a row in the Bundesliga was 3 years. So it's just this has only happened over the last maybe 11 years since the last time Dortmund won it in 2011-12 season. But definitely, I think Dortmund's obviously it's always a big challenge over the last maybe 20-25 years or whatever. But there has been other teams like Wolfsburg have won it. Werder Bremen have won it before as well. So they're probably out of the picture, I would say. But it's probably ourselves and RB Leipzig. It was maybe Leverkusen this season because they look really good under Alonso as well, and some of the midfield play has been amazing. So they're definitely contenders this season.
Interesting. Chris, from your perspective, Borussia Dortmund, how much have you seen of them this season? Like, what are your opinions about Borussia Dortmund, but also the test that we're going to be up against this week?
Yeah, I've got to admit, I haven't seen much of Borussia Dortmund this season so far. But huge club. Obviously, whenever I think of Borussia Dortmund, I just think, one of the powerhouses of German football. I always think of the Yellow Wall. I just think, absolutely fantastic fan base. Always support the team. Real working class club, and that's what I really like, because I like to think we are as well. The thing about Borussia Dortmund is, over the years, they've had some fantastic players as well. So for me, I think the game this week, some may say it's arguably a big chance for us to pick up 3 points, because obviously we've gone to the San Siro and got a point, which was we didn't play fantastically well, but to get a point at the San Siro, no one would ever argue or reject that. And then obviously the way that we beat PSG, I think most people, if you'd have asked them at the start of the group stages, who do you think will qualify from our group? Hopefully, Anton and Sarah, you agree with me. I think most people would have said PSG and AC Milan. So we've both kind of been underdogs in this. So I'm particularly interested to see how we get on, on Wednesday, because I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be a difficult challenge, but I just hope, somebody in the chat said it as well, I just hope that we don't underestimate Dortmund. I don't believe we will, because like I say, absolutely huge club, steeped in history. But I think the game's going to be more difficult maybe than what some fans realise, because Dortmund are no slouch, and we saw that with the league table, 2 points off top. And the Bundesliga is becoming more and more competitive. As Anton said, I think for many, many years it was Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, and then everybody else was just kind of whatever. But you've got Leverkusen emerging, you've got RB Leipzig. So the German league is, really starting to become more competitive, I think.
Definitely. Would you? So, from your perspective, guys, how do you kind of assess Newcastle from your perspective? Were you expecting Newcastle to be at the top of the league at this moment in time? And I'll drop it on the screen just so we can have a look at the current table. Just share it on there, so hopefully you can see it. So that's the table as it stands right now.
Take it away. Don't want to see it.
Yeah, of course. But how that table looks right now, is that what you expected, Anton? Did you kind of expect you guys to be up there and more competitive at that stage? It's only 2 games gone.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to get maybe a sneaky victory against Milan at home. The PSG away game, probably expecting a tougher game there, despite them not being the same as they were the last couple of seasons. But I think it's probably down to you guys getting a good result in Milan and obviously smashing PSG at home, which has made it more difficult for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it was always going to be a bit of a surprise with AC Milan. I think most people outside of Newcastle thought that we weren't going to get anything from that game at all. And I think, would you agree, Chris? Do you think that gave us the confidence to go into the PSG game and really kind of have a go at them, knowing we had a point on the board from the San Siro?
Possibly, Pete. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we came away from the San Siro after that point, I think we were a little bit like, oh, we got away with one there, because we were good value for the point. Don't get me wrong, but if you look at the stats and if you watch the game, AC Milan were, a little bit unlucky not to score really, because, our backs were against the wall for a lot of the game. But I think getting that point at the San Siro, which nobody would argue with, any point away from home, we always say this, don't we, Pete? Any point away from home is never a bad point, especially when you're coming up against the likes of AC Milan. But I think we were just able to kind of express ourselves a little bit more than, Anton and Sarah will know when we're at St James's Park, as I'm sure, when Borussia are playing at home. It's a massive opportunity because you've kind of got the 12th man in the fans, and I we were talking about how shell shocked PSG were when they came to St James's Park, and the atmosphere was unbelievable. I mean, Pete, you were there, weren't you? So you would be able to say that for you, Pete, did that make the difference? Did that really help in terms of us the performance that we put in against PSG?
110%. As I said to you before, I don't remember an atmosphere like that. I've supported the club 30 years. I've never ever heard an atmosphere at St James's Park like that. And that I think was the difference. I think PSG weren't expecting us to play like that. I don't think PSG were expecting the fans to be as electric as they were, and it made a massive difference. And that was effectively at times in the game what got us through. So I go back to a particular point. The last, I would say, including injury time in the first half, I would say the last 10 minutes of that first half, the fans got Newcastle over the line for that, because PSG were putting under a little bit of pressure, but the players were working 10-20% harder, maximum work rate, intensity, and that got them through. They were able to regroup, hit PSG with the third goal early in the second half, and then that opened up us to kind of play how we wanted to play. And I really do think the fans were a big part of that. I haven't seen the backing. You get fans in every stadium that will have moments of madness where they properly, and you guys will know from a Borussia Dortmund point of view, Sarah and Anton, is that you'll know you'll have pockets in the game where your fans will be at it. You'll be right behind your team, but then it kind of dampens down again. That game at St James's Park, it was for 90 plus minutes. Like I remember telling you, Chris, I got into the stadium probably just about 10 to, so 10-15 minutes before kickoff, and it was like that from that moment all the way through to probably sort of 20 minutes after the game. It was just constant, and I've never ever experienced that before. But what from your perspective, like from Dortmund fans, what are you kind of expecting coming to sort of St James's Park? Like I've obviously put the fixtures up for this week. Obviously, it's a big game for Paris and Milan. What are you expecting from St James's Park? From the fans, from your fans, for example, because you guys have a good following too. And do you think you, as a fan base, could kind of potentially quieten is down to a point coming to St James's Park? What do you think, Sarah?
Well, the Ultras always make a good show on the road for sure. So there's no doubt about that. But if I recall correctly, Newcastle, this is the first time in the Champions League in 20 years or something, right? So I think with that, that's a lot to kind of contend with, and I think is a really good explanation as to why it was probably so electric there for you guys during that match. And I don't imagine that will change for you all either. So it will just be very interesting to see the two fan bases interact and how much of the BVB Ultra voices can be heard against your fan base. But I think they'll definitely still, make a very good showing for sure.
Definitely. And Anton, am I right in thinking you might be travelling down?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to drive. I'm driving down through Glasgow on Wednesday. I'm contemplating taking in the under-19s game as well, which starts at 3:00. So I might try and make it for that. And then I'm self-employed, so I'll work again the next day. So I'll drive back up straight after the game. But I'm looking forward to it. I've been to St James's Park before, a few years back, so I know the atmosphere, and it's you guys probably the same as the kind of UK hardcore fans like Liverpool, Celtic and Rangers. Ibrox a couple of seasons ago was an amazing atmosphere that they created. So I kind of what you said, Chris. I think it will definitely make the Newcastle players try a bit harder and give an extra 10%. It won't phase the Dortmund players because they've dealt with this week in, week out in Germany as well with other ultra fans in loud stadiums and away in Europe as well. So it's not how it's going to affect the Dortmund players, it's how it's going to raise the Newcastle players, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I'll ask you outright. The league then, when I put it on the screen, it didn't make great reading at this point now because it's only 2 games in. But have you still got full confidence that you can make the top 2 and qualify to the next stage of the Champions League?
I would be.
Sorry, Anton.
Hopefully get a victory. If we can beat you guys back to back, that's 6 points, and then we've got PSG at home, and although you did them over big time, I think regardless of that, I think that PSG are going to be there for the taking for any kind of bigger team this season because they're not the team that used to be over the past few seasons. So I think the old cliche is, but the manager always say, take one game at a time. We'll see for that.
Are you in the same mindset, Sarah?
Yeah, I think we definitely have our work cut out for us. Absolutely. But, it's possible. And I'm really also very curious and anxious to see how things shake out with Milan and PSG. Of course, that will have an impact on things too. But yeah, it won't be easy, but it's still possible.
Definitely. And Chris, what are your thoughts of a potential Newcastle Dortmund qualify? First and second, maybe, into the next round. Would you take that?
I'd love that. I'd absolutely love that. Yeah, because like I said, I think a lot of people see Newcastle and Dortmund as the underdogs. So for us to go for it, I mean, imagine qualifying group stage and PSG and AC Milan get knocked out. Like that's a story, that isn't it? That's absolutely huge. So no, I'd be delighted. And the 2 best fan bases going through as well of the group. That's what more can you ask for? No, I think that'd be really, really good. What I wanted to ask actually, and Pete, I'll ask you this as well as Anton and Sarah. What other than the obvious, which I suppose is a draw, but if you had to have one of the whether it be PSG or AC Milan winning in that other fixture, what would you prefer and why?
Anton, do you want to go first?
You go. You can answer first.
Sarah.
Well, my initial instinct is I always want PSG to lose because I don't like them. But who's the statistician on this who can tell me no, we really want PSG to win because then that kind of stuff. I don't always think rationally. I think very emotionally when it comes to the outcomes that I want. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to stand behind. I want PSG to lose just because I don't like them. It's spite. My reason is spite.
Go on, Anton.
I would say a draw. I'm not the biggest PSG fan myself either, but I couldn't really care less, to be honest. A draw, so that way the 2 of them can not take it away too far in case we don't get a positive result against you guys.
And what about you, Pete, from a Newcastle perspective? What do you think would work out best for us? I mean, other than a draw, I mean, Anton's absolutely right. A draw would kind of, it stops anyone from gaining too many points. But are you resigned to the fact that you think either PSG or AC Milan will qualify? And, would you rather the other team get 0 points? Like, how would you see it?
I'll be honest with you. I think after Wednesday, we'll have a better idea of how the group's going to shape up. Because as Anton mentioned, he was quite right in what he said. They could. We don't want it, but they could beat us back to back, and the whole landscape of the table looks very, very different. And we're then looking at it with completely different eyes. So I would say a draw would probably be the best. For us, not knowing our result, I would say off the top of my head, a draw would definitely be the best result for us, and ultimately probably the best for Dortmund, because you don't want any team kind of running away with it, or you don't want two teams running away with it. You still want to have a little bit of hope with 3 games to go that there's enough points there for you to be able to claw it back. So I think for our perspective, definitely, and then a draw there, a 0-0 draw, a bit like it was when you guys played Milan. It was like a 0-0 draw. It was something like that, and then we just slug it out at St James's Park and see what happens. See what happens on Wednesday off the back of that. But I did have a question about Borussia Dortmund, because obviously you've got a few players that we are aware of. There's a few of them. You got Sebastian Haller, who was at West Ham and didn't do well at West Ham, but is a very, very good striker, and there's a bit of history there with yourselves. There's a few others as well. Don't know if you remember. Is this Schlotterbeck?
Schlotterbeck. Yeah, Schlotterbeck.
Because I wanted to make sure I pronounced it right, but. The reason why is because Chris, you'll know, we talked about him not long after the takeover happened as a player that was linked with Newcastle United. Obviously, he went to you guys not long after that. And as well as that, is it Brandt? Pronouncing it right?
Julian Brandt.
Yeah, that's the one. You got it from Leverkusen, and it is also a talented player. And there's Nicholas Schürrle as well, whose picture's not loading up for some reason, who was odds on before Sven Botman was linked as the guy coming in because he was about to leave Bayern Munich. So there's a few players there that have kind of been talked about either way. And to be fair, Sebastian Haller was linked with us before he went to West Ham. So there's always been links with certain players that you've got or had at Borussia Dortmund. But who's kind of your standout player? Who's the guy that's kind of pulling the strings for Borussia Dortmund this season, in your opinions? Anton, I'll start with you.
Good question. I think probably towards the end of last season, a few players had a bit of form. Adeyemi, Sebastian Haller, just spoke about. Julian Brandt as well. Daniel Marlin, but a few of them have kind of started the season maybe not as good. I don't know if it's a bit of a hangover for the last game of the season, kind of lost in the league on the last day. But for me, probably if I was to pick one player, maybe Brandt, if he can maintain the consistency, because it does kind of seem to drift. Maybe three or four games will be good, and then maybe a couple of games will be a bit quieter. So maybe him, but Nicholas Füllkrug up front, I'm kind of liking him as well, because I liked him when he played for Werder Bremen, and also he gets selected for the World Cup and scored a few goals. He's been scoring for Germany, so I think he could be the kind of guy up front that can do a bit of damage. He's kind of powerful as well.
What about you, Sarah? Who's kind of that player that is your go-to, the one that always kind of does the business for Dortmund, in your opinion?
Well, I definitely agree with Anton about Füllkrug and Brandt. They're both playing really, really well right now. But I think for me, my go-to guy is someone who's never, we either have to figure out how to clone him or get some sort of like robotic version of him, or he's never allowed to retire. And that is Hummels. Hummels is, he's the old man on the team, but he's still amazing, and he is reliable, and he is one of the most consistent out of the entire squad. He hasn't been perfect. He definitely hasn't been perfect, but he, out of everyone, has been the most consistent and reliable. And he's coming off of, I was personally surprised to see him start our match on Friday, especially since he had just played for the national team, traveled here to the States and back. And so I thought for sure, like, oh, they're going to let the old man like rest. They're not going to start him. But no, he started. And I mean, I love to see it. I love him. Like I said, he's never allowed to retire ever.
Another, I feel bad saying old man because I don't think he is, but there's
he's not really. He's not.
No, I'm going to refer to somebody else actually on top of Hummels,
Okay.
because Hummels has obviously been around for a while. But what about this man? Still going. How old is he? Is he 31, 32? He might be a bit older.
33.
Oh, he's 33. I wasn't too far off. Is he still pulling the strings for you guys, or is he sort of more a squad player now? He's had a lot of injuries over the years, and he is obviously getting towards the end of his career. What do you think?
So, correction, he's 34 years old. I always. I have this kind of running joke about Reus. I always say that his bones are made of glass because he's been so injury prone throughout his career. But yeah, I don't know. It's really kind of bizarre. I have not been his biggest fan in seasons past recently. And it's almost like once he relinquished or stepped down from being the captain, he's kind of had this renaissance of sorts, and he's been so great this season. And so I like to see him starting. I like to see him playing week in and week out. And, he started our match again on Friday, and I'm hoping to see him start on Wednesday as well.
Interesting. But any players from what Anton and Sarah have mentioned, Chris, that kind of stand out for you from a Dortmund perspective?
Do you know what? One player who's always stood out for me, and I think it was Anton who touched on him very briefly, was Daniel Malin. He always worries me because he's electric quick. I really like him. And somebody else in the chat actually, Pete, brought it back to me from the summer, when we were talking about Meche. Is it Meche, or am I pronouncing that right? Probably not.
Yeah,
Meche. There you go. Yeah, Meche. Yeah, that's my Scouse accent. That. But yeah, Meche, we were linked with him, and we were comparing him against every player we had, weren't we, Pete? So I'll be interested to watch him. And like, what were your thoughts on Meche since he's arrived? Like, has he done well for you both?
I probably knows like not really played as much. I don't think so. I think it's a bit early to kind of make a comment on him. He's been a bit of kind of getting a few games here and there, but I don't think he's probably too early to say. I liked him when he played for Wolfsburg last season. He was getting a few goals, so hopefully he can chip in with a few more again. But he's still a good age and stuff, so I think I'm quite happy with the signing. I think he can do well, but maybe too early to make a comment on him at the minute.
He's still a young lad as well, isn't he? Because we did a bit of a short on him and talked about him a little bit, but he's definitely one for the future, should we say? What about your manager? And I'm going to get this right, I thought, because we were talking about it before we went live. Is it Edin Terzic? Is that right? Okay. Got the pronunciation right. I'll come to you, Sarah, on Edin Terzic. Like, how good of a manager is he? What is his kind of like standout feature in terms of what like he brings to this squad of players?
I think first and foremost, his story is very much a Cinderella story. Knowing his background and his history, him starting out as a BVB fan, all of us BVB fans, it's like we see part of ourselves in him. And so that really just endears him to all of us and makes us want him to do well and be successful. But what we saw at the beginning of this season just kind of showed that, just because you love the team doesn't necessarily mean that, or doesn't always translate to success. And there were some definite rough patches. And, he is not the most experienced manager. He has some experience, but when you compare him to, some of the other managers out there, his career is still very young. So he has still a lot to learn. And yeah, he's definitely one that I think we'd all like to see some consistency from as well. Where we're not calling into question, why isn't he subbing people out and, things like that. I mean, we all have opinions, right? But his have just, his decisions have not always made the most sense. So it's kind of made every match feel like a struggle, maybe more than it has to be. So I think the potential is there. That's me trying to be optimistic. The potential is there, but we'll just have to see over the next, few Champions League matches if he really has what it takes. If he can really learn from each of his experiences and build on that.
Anything to add on that with regards to Terzic? Anton?
Yeah, but I agree with most of that. I just think chopping and changing managers for a club like Dortmund isn't going to be good. So I think that's why they've put him in and gave him a chance, stuck by him. I mean, had they won the league last season, then they would have been a genius. They'd have been here for another 5 years probably. When Klopp first came into Dortmund as well, he took him a bit of time. So you have to give the guy a bit of chance, I think, for a couple of seasons at least. But he's a Dortmund fan as well, so he kind of knows what the club's about. So I think the fans will dig him because of that as well.
Interesting. This is a question or an opinion that I'm going to throw your way that I think Chris might have an opinion on as well. And it's two players no longer at your club. I want you to get your opinions on how they're doing. First of all, Jaden Sancho left you guys and had sort of the world at his feet, but not really hit the ground running at Man United, and is currently banished from all first team involvement, and he can't even eat in the first team kitchen. That's how bad he's been banished at the moment. But what do you make? I'll ask this one to you, Anton. What do you make of the situation with Jaden Sancho?
It's a bit sad, obviously, because he was a big fan's favourite, and we kind of loved him at Dortmund. It was amazing, like the skills and the goals we chipping in, the assists, and definitely a real hero. And we get it'd been good if he stayed, obviously, but the Dortmund model is kind of get young players, build them up, sell them for huge fees. But the situation at Man United for me is a bit sad. I don't know. I don't think any of us know the real ins and outs of it, but it looks like Ten Hag speaking out about him in the open, in the media and stuff like that isn't the best idea, because nowadays we speak about players' mental health and stuff. So I think banishing them to like no in the kitchen and stuff like that is it's a bit much. But to be honest, it looks like he's not going to be at Man United much longer. There was rumours he's coming back to Dortmund on loan in January or something, but if he's going to be the same player, I'm not sure of that.
This is where I'll divert to Chris on this one, because we haven't really talked about it because it's not a Newcastle-related topic as such. But what do you make of this Jaden Sancho situation? And what Anton just said is what I was going to ask you. Would you take him in January at Newcastle United? Just throw it out there.
Yeah, it's a great question, actually, Pete. I mean, in terms of the situation, I think it's quite odd, and I think it's quite sad as well, actually, because as Anton said, Jaden Sancho at Borussia Dortmund, he was like one of the most exciting prospects in European football, wasn't he? He was the Sky Sports in England was all over Jaden Sancho. It was like, look what Jaden Sancho has done in Germany, look what he's doing here, look what he's doing there. And then he gets his big move to Manchester United, and it was a slow start. But I kind of feel sorry for him, because I just wonder whether there's off-field issues, because he just doesn't look the same player. Not physically, but also mentally. It just looks like he's got a few challenges at the moment. Obviously, I don't know that for fact. It's just me, taking my opinion from the outside looking in. But there's definitely a player there. And for me, I think with the right coaching, with the right support, I don't see why he couldn't get back to those levels. So I agree with Anton. I think any club who get him on loan, I'd take him on loan. I don't know if I'd want him permanently, But I'd certainly take him on loan. And see if he could be turned around, because I do actually feel sorry for him now. With all the stories coming out, it does sound a little bit, if I'm being honest, it does sound like a little bit petty. And not forgetting he's a young lad, and maybe I'm feeling this way, Pete, because we've been watching the David Beckham documentary. We had it on earlier. Sometimes young lads just need a little, an arm around the shoulder, a little bit of support. And I just get the impression that Jaden Sancho's been made a bit of a scapegoat, because things aren't going well for Man United at the moment, and I think it's very easy to point the finger. And it feels to me like that's what they're doing with Jaden Sancho. So if you were to offer me in January on a loan deal, I'd definitely take him. Whether or not we sign him permanently would be how he performed for the rest of the season.
Interesting, very, very interesting. Sarah, anything to add with regards to Jaden Sancho before I come to you with the other player that we're going to talk about very quickly?
No, I think Chris and Anton have really covered everything. I mean, one thing I do want to remark on about him is that Sancho, he did not burn any bridges when he left. He remained a BVB supporter, just from what I saw of his activity on social media. And that I very much appreciate. So if he were to come back to Dortmund, then I think many of us would welcome him back with open arms. So I hope I wasn't aware that things had gotten quite so bad for him there, but I hope things turn around for him.
I think it's got to the point where I read a report that was saying that there's a few players at Manchester United that are actually telling Sancho to apologise, because I think this is the key. Because of what he came back with after Erik ten Hag had his say, he then put his piece out on social media, and he's not apologised for it. And I think that's why Erik ten Hag has just kind of excluded him from the squad. He wants an apology. Sancho's not willing to give one. I think the players are just saying, just say sorry, then you can get back into the team and start playing again. But I think it's a level of pride. I understand from both sides of the coin. Well, more so to Sancho's, actually, I've got to be honest, of why he did that. I understand why he responded the way he did, because I think how the manager dealt with it, I think, was quite poor. But that's, like I say, that's just my opinion. But yeah, it could well be we're having this conversation again come January, because both teams have been linked with him. You guys more than us, but there's no doubt that he would get back to some sort of his best if he came back to you guys and played regular football. That's for sure, and that would only help England. So from an England point of view, he isn't really getting a sniff, but he's proven to be a really kind of talented player. And the second person, I'll come to you on this, Sarah, is because he is making moves right now, waves, in fact, and it's this man, Jude Bellingham. How good is this guy? How good was he at Borussia Dortmund? And I assume that you've been watching some or seeing some bits of what he's been doing at Real Madrid. Like, how good can he be?
Obviously, we all know he is very, very talented, and he's still also very young. He is very, very young. And so his etiquette, or professionalism rather, is an area where I feel he could use some coaching. Not his playing is fine, and yes, he is making waves and living up to the expectations that people had for him, which is great. But I, kind of referring back to my earlier comment about spite and burning bridges. And, Bellingham made a comment on social media just about how the atmosphere, where he's playing now, was unlike anything he'd ever experienced before. And, I don't know. I'm just calling. Am I allowed to curse here? I'm calling bullshit on that.
Okay. We've said a lot worse. Don't worry.
I'm just, that's how I feel about it. But it's just like, whatever. He has to win over his new fan base, but. Okay, maybe that shouldn't really diminish what he's doing for his team now, which is good. And, it brings awareness to our club too, but it does. I feel like there is a good number of BVB fans where we feel like we are just kind of like a training ground for these players who then go off to do these big, incredible things. And it would be nice for us to have some retention. So, I wish him all the best, glad he's doing great, but he's moved on. I'm moving on too. So.
Okay. No, fair play. Chris and Anton as well. Jude Bellingham. Anton, I'll come to you first. Are you? It was quite a firm response with regards to Jude Bellingham. That Sarah, I've got to be honest. Are you as firm in that response? That have you just moved on from him, or are you still?
Bring him back.
I'm like a massive fan of Bellingham. I watched him live again at Scotland and England game a couple of weeks back there at Hampton, and just amazing. Just watching him running the show, even if it was against our team. No, but I think in the media now, so he's Real Madrid, so he's a world class player. He's doing brilliant. We've been seeing this for the last couple of seasons playing for Borussia Dortmund. He's been excellent. He'll definitely be one of the best players in the world for many years to come, I think. And good luck to him. I don't mind. I think if he played in the last game, he was actually injured for the last game of the season against Mainz when Dortmund lost the league. If he plays, I think Dortmund won the league because he was dragging the team forward and he was getting goals in that as well.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah. Chris, he's just what Anton said it. He's world class, isn't he? He's world class, and you got to see him live and in person because you were there against Italy.
I was smiling. I was smiling when Anton said that because Anton, I felt exactly the same. Like I was at Wembley for the England-Italy game, and just watching him live is just ridiculous. He's just absolutely. You don't realise how good someone is until you see them live. And up to now, he's probably been one of my favourite players that I've seen play football live because he was that good. And it's crazy to think that he's still only 20 years old. And, he looks like he's been playing for like 10, 15 years. He looks like a veteran. Not in terms of his pace and stuff like that, because obviously he's got that in abundance. But, he's so mature on the ball. And he always seems to make the correct decision, and he's always forward thinking, and he just seems like he's all over the pitch. But what a talent, what a player! So I bet it was, I bet it really stuck the knife in when he left, because I can't imagine having hold of someone that good, and then them leaving. But on the other hand, it was a great deal for Dortmund, and that's one thing. I know we haven't touched on it, but that's one thing that I think most people in world football are envious of the way Dortmund do transfers, because like even with Erling Haaland, the way that you bring players on, develop them, and then they go, but you get a fantastic fee for them. So Dortmund's transfer policy is absolutely superb.
It is. He's a super talent, and you're right, Chris. It is the decision making, the maturity levels of him, the way he plays. He plays like he's in his late 20s. The little things that he did, like just where he just calms down the fans and the players around him, and he won the penalty against Italy, and he's doing the, take a breath, like calm down, because there was a little bit of, worry in the stadium before that penalty that Italy were on top, and he just he's got that maturity level about him, and he's only 20, he's only going to get better. I think his stature, big physical player, but can get around the pitch, like we in this country, we hold Gerrard and Lampard in high regard of what they did as centre midfielders, but he has the ability to surpass them 110%. And he's at the right club to do that. And I love about the fact that he's 20 years old and he's not just doing it anywhere in the Premier League, he's doing it in Spain. So he's gone abroad. And this was a conversation I had with my wife watching the Beckham documentary, because we were watching it and, looking at some of the issues they had moving to Spain and all the rest of it. And I said, you've got a 20-year-old that's doing that some of the older, more experienced players weren't able to do and really struggled with. He's already done it by going to Germany and going to Spain. Like, we don't see it enough from English players. We're lucky enough to have someone in Kieran Trippier that's done something similar. and he was successful doing that as well. And it's we don't see enough of it. Yes, the Premier League's arguably the best league in the world, but it shouldn't stop English players going and honing their craft abroad. This is why I've got so much respect for Jude Bellingham, and in particular Sancho. I just kind of wish he'd not come back.
I think on that note as well, I think Jude Bellingham's mum stays with him as well, so maybe that's why he's settling in these places so well.
Yeah, well looked after, well fed, prepared. But no, yeah, maybe that's the thing. Obviously, Beckham had a family and 2 children at the time to kind of worry about, and that can be an additional strain too. But I do admire players that want to go abroad and really hone their craft. I just find they're better players for it. We see so many foreign players come to England in a similar situation. It makes them a better player off the back of that, and we need to, I think, do more. But great opinions there all round with regards to that. We've got some great questions in that we'll come to shortly, but I think we'll start looking at the game now, and let's look at a few stats.
She say I'm Mr. Roll, smooth, just like a silk, soft and cuddly. Hug me up like a quilt, I'm a statistical lover. No take me fee, no filth with my sexual physique. Ya know me well built, oh me, oh my, well. Can't you tell I'm just like a turtle crawling out of my shell, gal? You captivate my body, put me under a spell with your sit on the fence perfume. I love your sweet smell, you're the only young girl who can ring my bell and I can't take rejection. So you tell me go to hell, I'm statastic. Tell me doomtastic, touch me in me back. She say I'm Mr. Romantic, call me statastic. She touch me in my back. She says I'm Doctor.
Mr. Lover is in the house. Like magic, he appears. Our stat man, our 00 stato, Mr. Dr. Doom for his normally bad predictions, but they're on point at the moment. I'm not going to lie.
Absolutely. I've got them right.
You have. You're on point. But Keith, you're in the house. Keith Rollins, pleasure to have you as always. Welcome to another episode of the Away Days Champions League special. What stats have you got for us this week, mate?
Got a load of stats here. I've got particularly about Borussia Dortmund's history in European competition. I've got some stats there. Got some stats on their honours. Got some stats on the record against English teams. Newcastle's record against German teams as well in Europe. Managers and goalkeepers and some of the players for Borussia Dortmund and some general stats to round off. So Borussia Dortmund's record in UEFA competition is as follows. They've played 284 games. They've won 139. They've drawn 56 and they've lost 89. Their list of European honours is as follows. 1965, 1966 Cup winners, 1996, 1997 Champions League winners when they beat a peak Juventus 3-1 in the final. They will also been 1993 and 2002 UEFA Cup finalists and 2013 Champions League finalists when they lost to Bayern Munich 2-1 narrowly at Wembley. Borussia Dortmund's record against English teams in European competition, they've played 33 games, they've won 12, drawn 6 and lost 15, whereas Newcastle are unbelievably unbeaten against German teams in European competition. Their record, they've played 5 games, they've won 4 and they've drawn 1, not lost any. Some memorable games there as well for Newcastle over the years against 1816 Munich in a total cup, Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League, 2 wins we had there, and Eintracht Frankfurt, Kevin Keegan's old team. Managers stats, mainly specifically about Edin Terzic, because Eddie Howe, he's had 2 games in Europe, we know this, and he's undefeated in both. Edin Terzic, it's his 3rd season managing a team in European competition. All 3 have been in the Champions League. He's managed 14 games. He's won 4, drawn 5, and lost 5 games. As a manager, he's also won the domestic cup in Germany as well with Borussia Dortmund, the DFB Pokal Cup back in the 2020-2021 season. Moving on to the goalkeepers, Gregor Kobel. He's kept 3 clean sheets in 10 games so far for Borussia Dortmund. In total, he's kept a total of 25 clean sheets in 76 games for Borussia Dortmund. Really good record there. Nick Pope, he's kept 63 clean sheets in 186 Premier League games in total. And both Gregor Kobel and Nick Pope have 1 clean sheet so far this season in the Champions League. Moving on to some outfield players. Top goal scorers for Borussia Dortmund this season are Daniel Malen with 4 goals in 10 games, and Marco Reus and Julian Brandt have 3 goals each. And a little bit closer look at their records in Europe as well. Daniel Malen, he's scored 18 goals in 42 games in European competition for PSV Eindhoven and also Borussia Dortmund. And Marco Reus, he's scored 31 goals in 79 games in European competition for Borussia Dortmund. And a record, I believe, goes all the way back to 2012. Moving on to Newcastle players, Kieran Trippier now has 7 assisted goals so far this season, which is an unbelievable record for a fullback. Some general stats just to finish off with. Borussia Dortmund are undefeated in German domestic football this season. In total, they have won 7 games and they have drawn 2 games in Germany this season. Their 1-0 win against Werder Bremen on Friday night took them temporarily to the top of the Bundesliga. And Borussia Dortmund were also undefeated in 7 pre-season games, 6 wins, 1 draw, including wins against Ajax, Man United, and a draw against Chelsea in those pre-season games. And Borussia Dortmund as well, their undefeated domestic form goes back to April 2023 when they lost 2-0 to RB Leipzig in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal Cup in early April 2023. So in total, their unbeaten run is an impressive 12 wins and 4 draws from 16 domestic games. Newcastle, they themselves are on a good run at the moment. They have won 5 successive home games in a row at St. James's since losing to Liverpool in extra time in August. And since losing 3-1 away to Brighton at the beginning of September, Newcastle have now gone unbeaten in 8 games in all competitions, winning 6 and drawn 2 games. They've scored 22 goals and they've conceded just 3 in this run of games. And that rounds off the stats there.
Great stats as always, Keith.
Thank you.
Absolutely spot on, mate. Some great stats from a Dortmund point of view as well. So hopefully yourselves, Sarah and Anton, you were able to appreciate some of the stats that he's throwing out there. But interestingly, we've got a decent unbeaten record from both ends of the coin. So that will be really, really interesting to see how that unfolds for sure. But just wanted to throw out there a couple of super chats. I've not got the Zelda music, so I'm just going to put them up anyway. But Tampa Toon, great to see you. Not seen you for a while on the chat. Great to have you back. How are the lads? Lay and going back to the start. So he's gone back to the start, and he's put another super chat in. He's got good afternoon to Anton.
Received.
Good old one. But,
yeah, why not? Good afternoon, Anton and Sarah, my neighbour across the 1-4 corridor. I think you will know what that means.
Yes, I totally get it.
Good stuff. Tam Toon, great supporter of the channel, always on showing support. And it's great to have AB in there as well. From the symbol, Dortmund fan in the chat. So it's great to have a Dortmund fan in there as well. And this kind of moves us on nicely, really, because AB's put Reyna needs to start against Newcastle. He was quality when he came on Friday. And it was one player that we didn't really talk about, but another young player that's got lots and lots of promise. Obviously, his dad played at Man City. That's why I remember, because I'm old, and I remember him playing at Man City. But yeah, how good is Reyna?
I think he's great. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you think he's got the potential to kind of, be that next big star coming out of Dortmund potentially?
I definitely think so. He has, he's definitely shown signs of that, and he's one of the players that I follow too when he plays for the U.S. men's national team. And his recent call up, he did really, really well. So as long as he gets some consistent playing time, then it all comes back to potential. I think he can do it. I think he has what it takes. He just needs that chance.
You agree with that, Anton?
Yeah, definitely. Injuries as well. He's been injured a few times, a few bad injuries. He seemed to come back for a few games and then get injured again, but out for a few months. He's not a good luck for injuries, but he's still young, got plenty of potential. But I don't think he'll start the game, but he'll definitely come on at some point.
Excellent. Right. What we're going to do now is go to the lineups. So, as you can see on the screen, you'll see we've got the lineup here. Just really quickly, I would like you. So, Anton, if you want to give your lineup, and then we can get Sarah to critique the lineup that you suggest, and we'll do the same the other side, Chris, with Chris and Keith. So, from a Dortmund perspective, how do you think potentially they're going to line up? So, who's your goalkeeper? And we'll work.
Well, Kobo will be in goals.
Sorry. Kobo in goal. Hold on one second. I'm not happy. I'm not happy about this. Let me change it. Need to make sure it's appearing properly on the screen. No, because I can't see the colours. Hold on 1 second. Let's see if I can change it. 1 second. There we go.
There you go.
Right. What's your back four looking? Is it back four, back three?
Probably four. Four. I reckon. Right back will be Ryerson. Possibly left back Benzibaini, I think, maybe.
Number 5 next to him.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you know what? It's done it for the messed it up.
Outfield.
Messed it up. The goalkeeper was fine, but the players are not. There we go. I live with that. Yes, centre backs.
Well, Hummels and Schlotterbeck.
Okay. Left hand side and Hummels. Is that right?
Yeah.
There we go. And midfield.
That's the Emre Can will definitely start being captain as well. And I'm going to go Metro.
Oh, okay. Will they play alongside each other?
I think Metro might push on a bit more.
Okay, so just sort of in front then, a little bit like that. And then who else in your midfield?
Sorry?
Who else in your midfield are you going for?
I reckon Marco Reus will start.
Okay. Centre, right, left?
Probably on the left.
Okay. And on the right?
Daniel Marlin.
Okay. And then who finishes off your team?
Well, up front will be Nicholas Füllkrug, I reckon. Julian Brandt behind.
Okay. Something alongside that then, is that what you're saying?
I think maybe Marius Wolf maybe start at a fullback as well, but I think that's going to be the team.
Okay. Wolf maybe at fullback.
maybe.
Okay, we'll leave it like that at the moment. Would you change anything, Sarah?
That was almost identical to what I predicted.
Ooh.
But I'm okay. Now, what I would really like to see, because looking at our lineups from our past 2 Champions League matches, that didn't work. So I feel like we need to do something different here. And even though this may not and probably will not happen, I don't care. This is what I want to see happen. So I'm manifesting this. I am going to put Chan 23, put him on the bench as a sub, even though, I mean, I love him, but he's got to go.
Okay.
And then I would like to see Reyna in the midfield.
Okay. Where's Reyna?
So I would put what I'm predicting would be Royce, Mecha, and Reyna in the midfield, and maybe Brandt in the midfield too.
Yeah.
And I had Mullen and Fulkrug more up front.
What, more together? So looking, was it a little bit like this?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I would like to see.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So, what do you think, Anton? Will you go with that, or will you go back to your original?
Well, we need somebody tough in centre mid, so Emre Can the must start for me.
Okay.
Although he is prone to getting booked and giving penalties away.
AB's gone. That's a very AB said in the chat. It's a very attacking team. No number 6. So, Sarah, it looks like you've gone all out. You're going for the win. All out with that. But let's go with the original. Cause I'm kind of hoping Reyna's not going to play. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, we'll keep it as we had originally. But no, that's good to know, because if the lineups come, Chris, we normally talk about this, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
So I was out. But from a Newcastle perspective, Chris, talk me through your lineup.
Do you know what? I was thinking about this earlier, and I actually think this is probably going to be one of the easier ones to predict this week. I mean, Keith may tear it apart when I put it up, but I think it'll be Nick Pope in goal.
Excellent.
I think it'll be the back 4 that we all expect, which will be Dan Burn at left back, Fabian Schär at left centre back, Jamal Lascelles at right centre back, and Kieran Trippier at right back.
Good old Trips.
Good old Trips, there he is.
Good old Trips.
I think the midfield 3 will be the same as it was against Palace. So I think it'll be Sean Longstaff on the right, if the midfield 3 in the centre. And then I think it'll be Bruno Gomes, and Joe Linton in the left of the 3.
Joe.
And then up front, I think it will be Anthony Gordon on the left.
Anthony Gordon, yeah.
I think it will be Alexander Isak through the middle.
Isak.
And Miggy Almiron on the right.
Miggy. All right.
That's the yeah. I think that's what our formation will be, in my opinion.
Excellent. Keith, critique or agree? What you're saying with Chris's team that he's put out?
Yeah, sort of semi-agree with most of that for sure. Yeah, I think what we've seen with Eddie Howe in the European competitions and the Premier League, there seems to be a synergy between whoever comes on for the substitutes is generally more or less going to be starting in the key substitute areas. So Almiron, he came on yesterday. Murphy played a brilliant game yesterday, man of the match performance. But Almiron's probably going to likely get the nod in Europe because he came on as a sub. He's going to have the fresher legs, isn't he? And Isak as well, for sure. Though brilliant for Wilson getting a goal yesterday, but I think it'll be Isak, the rotation again coming into play. I think Isak will come in and he'll be wanting to put on the performance of his life against his former club, Borussia Dortmund, who he played with 5-6 years ago. So, yeah, I think Gordon as well, one of the performers of this season, one of the star performers, he's going to be in there. just a question on sort of the back four. How far are we off getting Botman back in the side? Has there been any word when he's going to be back in?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Eddie Howe said. Now, look, what we know, and Anton and Sarah won't know, but Eddie Howe tends to lie a lot about his injuries. He'll say, "Oh yeah, he'll be back in a day," and that means that he's not going to be back for 6 weeks. He'll say, "Oh, he's not back for another 2-3 weeks," and then you'll probably see him in the next game. But so you don't quite know. Sorry,
Pete. Talking about that as well, and only because we were talking about the press conference earlier today, weren't we? Yeah. Did you notice when he was asked about Sven Botman, and he gave like the shortest answer other than no, which he answered to a few people? He said something like, "Oh, is Botman back?" And he was like, "No, I don't think so," and he just left it at that. So you might be onto something there, Keith. He might be saving Sven Botman, and all of a sudden he appears because he didn't look wholly convinced. Well, he didn't look wholly convincing on that. Sven Botman was completely out of the question. He just kind of went, no, I don't think he'll make it. And then, obviously rumours come out about the 2 weeks.
No, he actually said it to reporters after the game.
Oh, did he after the match?
Yeah. He actually, but it still doesn't mean anything. That's the thing. It still doesn't mean anything because we know what he's like. But I agree with Chris. I think that'll be your back four. I think
that's your strongest. That's your strongest lineup. Yeah. If you haven't got Botman available, that's your strongest lineup.
Yeah,
and you don't change. You don't change a settled back four.
Yeah. And we know what that front three, for example, did against PSG. So we know that front three works. We know that midfield works because we've seen him do it last season, this season. Like the only question mark I have is, and we talked about it on the review show yesterday, is that Joelinton didn't have the best game against Palace. So we're hoping that he's going to have a better game. And I just think, from my point of view, and I get the old squiggly line out, I think this area is key. We talked about this area is key from an attacking point of view, but from a defensive point of view, he is going to be key in this space here. Okay, the area that he does defensively to stop Brandt in that area, making those runs, and Marlon going at Dan Burn. We need that cover here. That is so important. And for me, Joelinton, we need to see here long parts of the game, just protecting Dan Burn in that little area there. If he can do that and put a stop to any of their forward movements, I think we've got a really good chance of doing things the opposite way. But they're just my opinions on that, boys. Before I ask Anton and Sarah for their opinions, anywhere else you think is an area we can win the game?
Do you know what? I think based on Sean Longstaff's performance against Palace, he's got a key part to play for me, because he will hopefully be pushing forwards and really, linking up well with Miggy Almiron. If it is Alexander Isak who starts, he'll be dropping deep into those pockets, as we know he likes to do. I know predominantly he tends to drop towards the left, but perhaps he may sway over to the right. And then obviously by dragging the players out towards the right, that gives Bruno Guimaraes opportunity to bomb forward through the middle as well. I can't underestimate how key Joelinton's going to be for this game. I mean, I must admit, I was wondering whether key for yourself, Pete, especially after what Keith said about the substitutions, whether either of you thought that maybe Tonali might start ahead of Joelinton.
Honestly, I think we're probably going to hear tomorrow of his ban, maybe Tuesday latest. I don't think he's going to play in the Champions League. I think his ban will be in place by then, which is why, otherwise I'd have started him. I'd have had him playing, because he's played in all the other Champions League games.
They don't mess about, do they really? The Italians in Serie A, with their sort of FA, they seem to come to swift resolutions. And there was something about yesterday which felt final, really. That with Tonali, sort of the way he addressed the crowd and that, it just felt a little bit final. So I think there'll be a swift resolution. If not tomorrow, then on the Tuesday, and I think it'll not even be a consideration on Wednesday night.
Yeah, definitely. But the point you mentioned about, before I come to Anton and Sarah, this here is what absolutely destroyed Crystal Palace on Saturday. Trippier taking up spaces here. Murphy coming out here, but we've got Amir on in this position. And what we then saw is Longstaff exploiting this space. The amount of times that just a simple pass from either Trippier or Murphy at the time in here or in here, and he was just making that run into that space, and it wasn't getting picked up. If it doesn't get picked up again, he will destroy teams. He scored in the same way against PSG.
Yeah, he did.
In the last Champions League game, because he picks up those little pockets of space and nobody tracks him. So that's something that, if you've got him, Mecca or Emre Can, they're going to have to, whoever plays on this side, follow that run, because he will make that run. Even if we lose the ball and we're on, and you guys are on the attack going this way, here, Trippier will come back in, Lascelles will come across, Gameros will come across here to block it off, and Joe Linton will just shift across. So he will know he's protected, but he will make that run there. And I just think that run is what killed Crystal Palace on Saturday. I think that run's so important because it opens up so much space for everyone else in the team. But Anton, Sarah, where do you think you guys are going to win the game? Like, where are your key players going to flourish?
Just what you mentioned, I think the fullbacks for Dortmund will push up quite far, and the liability caught in the counter attack and the way you guys are attacking at the minute. Keep it tight at the back, I think, is key for Dortmund, and just maybe sneak a goal. We've got the quality and the attacking areas, but the Dortmund defence has always been a bit questionable over the last few years. But so for us, I think that the defence has to be quite tight.
Is there a potential? Is there a side of the pitch you play a lot of your football down, the left or the right?
No, I think I can't really. I don't know the stats and stuff like that, but I think I would say the right hand side. Try to use Malin's pace, but Hummels isn't the quickest, so he's very good at reading the game, but he can be caught out pace wise if he's kind of isolated, which has happened a few times in the last few seasons.
What about Schlotterbeck? Is he quick?
He'll be quick. He can read the game quick as well, and he's good at getting last ditch tackles. And it's mainly just leaving the gaps, as you said. If the Newcastle forwards can exploit that space when they push up and catch on the counter attack, I think that's probably where the game might be won if you guys were to take it.
Sarah, you were nodding. Are you in agreement with that one?
Yeah, and Ryerson is definitely one to watch because he shows a lot of aggression, offensive aggression, especially in the recent matches. So I'm really curious to see what his approach is in the match for sure. Because I feel like he scored some goals, so now he's kind of I don't know if he's fixating on that or whatnot, but he can't forget his role as a defender. So I hope to see him just be mindful of that. But yeah, I definitely agree with what Anton was saying for sure.
Excellent. So it's going to be interesting to see how these things unfold. Was someone going to mention something before we wrap it up? No.
For me.
Be interesting to see how it all breaks down and those opinions on certain people, whether it's Tonali, whether it's Reyna, whether it's other players. It always brings in an interesting conversation when we talk lineups and tactics. So just before we get to predictions, any key questions for Anton and Sarah, Chris?
Yeah, so we've got a few questions in here. This one's from Craig Lee. So I'll go to Anton, I'll go to you first, mate. So Craig Lee says, have either of the Dortmund fans watched much of Newcastle this season? If so, what do you think?
Just the Liverpool game. When they should have won against Liverpool. I've seen bits of that. But for that, the odd highlights here and there against the weekend I watched it, they look quite good going forward to the PSG game. So they look good in attack, definitely. But it'll be a good night, I think, overall. But I'm quite looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Sarah, have you seen much of Newcastle this season?
I've not seen much, no. But really just really impressive impressions of what I've seen on social media and just what the team is doing right now. And, I'm really, really excited to see Dortmund face off against Newcastle. And I'm hoping for an equally exciting match for both teams.
Very, very diplomatic answer there, Sarah.
I was just going to say,
I like
that.
Practicing right? David Tofield asks, and again, it'd be good to get both your opinions on this. Your attack looks pretty quick, but your defense looks slow. Is that accurate?
We'll go back to Hummels, I guess. He is, as we've already talked about, older. So yeah, his pace maybe isn't the same as, some young kid, but he makes up for that in other ways just by, being really smart and all of the experience that he has. But the pace can definitely work against us sometimes, for sure.
Would you agree with that, Anton?
Yeah, just what I touched on earlier on there. I think if he's isolated, Hummels can be caught, but he's excellent reader of the game. And sometimes that doesn't get noticed as much, I don't think. He can steal a few yards if he's been beat. A few yards he can steal it with his mind, because he knows what the player's got to do, so he's really good at that. As I said, if isolated, then there's always a chance for Newcastle.
Are we gonna see your fullbacks really attack, or do you have one that predominantly goes forward? Like for us, we tend to see Kieran Trippier go forward furthest, or do both of your fullbacks really push on?
I would say both as well, and if Mariusville plays as well, he likes to get forward a lot. They really need to put a shift in. You definitely see maybe one of the fullbacks getting changed over as well. So if Benzibaini's playing, he can chip in the attack as well. But yeah, they'll definitely push up, I reckon.
And then the final question, which is a nice question to you both. So Dunhill says, evening Pete and Chris, evening mate, and evening to our guests. Question for you though, what is your favourite Dortmund moment? So I'll go to you first, Sarah.
Good question.
I think hands down my favorite Dortmund moment just has to be when I went to a match in Dortmund this past March. And so the picture behind me is the match where I was, but this was a screenshot my mother took of, while she was watching the game. And so I was sitting trying to do my fingers right. I was sitting like right in this area. So it was in the yellow wall, in the thick of it. And yeah, I think right now that is on record my favorite Dortmund moment.
Love it.
What about you, Anton?
One in the double. 2011-12, first time Dortmund's won the domestic double and beat Bayern Munich 5-2 in the cup final as well. So that's it for me.
Yeah, can't really top that, can you?
There you go. And hopefully, Sarah, you'll get to experience that maybe this season. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
I think that was before your time, wasn't it? 2014, you said?
Yeah. So my first season as a Dortmund fan was one of our worst seasons in recent history. I was like, I sure picked a heck of a time to become a Dortmund fan. But yeah, I would love to experience winning the title.
AB's in agreement with Anton.
Yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
Is that it for questions?
That's it for questions, mate. Yeah, that is all the questions.
So now we'll start to wrap up the show, and we only do that by predictions. So first of all, look, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go first. We normally go kind of like we'll work our way around the table, and then we'll always end with Dr. Doom here with his prediction to wrap up the show. But I'm going to go 2-1 to Newcastle. Home advantage, I think, will make the difference. I think Dortmund will score. I think it'll be a lot tighter game to PSG, but still an entertaining one. So, yeah, 2-1 for me. Chris, what are you going for, mate?
Do you know what? I was tempted by 2-1, and then I changed my mind last minute. So I'm going to go for Newcastle 2-0. I think we'll win 2-0. I think Sarah will be pleased to hear this. I think it'll be a very entertaining game. And I think Dortmund will give it a real good go, but I think in the end, I think we might just get over the line. So I'm going to predict 2-0. That's my prediction.
Okay, Anton, Dortmund representative number 1. What are we going for?
I reckon we'll bring Newcastle back down to earth a bit and 2-1 Dortmund.
2-1 Dortmund.
Love it.
Reverse. No, fair play. And Sarah, what are you going for on the day?
Oh gosh. Okay, predictions are not my favorite thing at all. So originally I was thinking 2-1 Dortmund, but now I don't know. I feel like we're gonna give each other a run for our money. So I'm gonna go with a 1-1 tie.
Ooh, 1-1. With that in mind, it's nice to go on to 00 Stato. Dr. Doom, what is your prediction this week? Are you going to predict a winner for us?
Well, I think what we can't discard is Borussia Dortmund's impressive domestic form, undefeated domestically this season, going back to April. I think the PSG in the opener, defeating the opening game. Again, we can't read too much into that too much. I mean, one of the goals was a penalty from Mbappe, and then a quick fire second goal early in the second half, the first quarter of the second half. Can't read too much into it, and only defeat there to PSG. So I think it's going to be quite an evenly matched game, for sure. And I am very nervous about this one. If you remember back in 97, 98, Newcastle got that brilliant win against Barcelona. And then a game or two later, the first game back, they lost to PSV at home at St. James's. So it's important not to get too overhead. That was brilliant, the PSG game, but it's one game. And it's important that obviously, again, we're just, because Borussia Dortmund are going to come to Newcastle to attack. They've only got 1 point on the board. They're going to come to Newcastle all out. So it's going to be a really tough game, home or away. That's why I'm going for this score.
1-1
at full time.
For the 1-1. Interesting.
The draws are back. The draws are back.
He's on the fence. He's on the fence. He'll get hammered for it, but he's on the fence. Along with Sarah as well. But predictions are in.
Isaac the score. Against his former club.
Of course.
First Champions League goal.
Yeah, we've not even talked about the fact that he is an ex-Dortmund player. Is our Alexander Isak. I know you had him for a short period before he went to Sociedad, but interesting predictions all round. And get your predictions in the chat. If not, put it in the comments after the show. Bill has gone for 3-1 Newcastle. Ronald's gone for 3-0 Newcastle. There'll be many others with their opinions as well. Just before we say goodbye, we always have to thank our sponsors. Massive thanks to the radiatorshed.com. Thank you to Russ and the team for all their support. And they provide top quality materials made from plate steel, providing longevity. All designs are manufactured in Italy, and aluminium rads are very environmentally friendly and are perfect for heat source pumps. And you can see just some examples on there. And we have to thank as well H2 Bathroom Design Co. The North East largest suppliers of Villeroy and Box bathroom wear, team by the Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. So make sure you get down to the showroom on the 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate in Gateshead, and some quality bathrooms on show. If you wish to get involved, so thank you to our sponsors. Massive thanks to our guests, Anton and Sarah.
Cheers.
Just plug really quickly where we can find you on social media or in general, or where's your at?
For me, just it's Glasgow Bruising.
Okay. And Sarah, where can we find you?
I'm at BBB_Orlando, and then I also have a BBB podcast at FM_1909.
Excellent. So make sure you all subscribe to that and get involved and hopefully listen to them review a defeat on Thursday. Fingers crossed. But we have to say massive thanks for you to joining us. Great to have different guests and perspectives on our channel, as we always like to do on away days. And hopefully we'll get you back for the reverse fixture and we can have another chat off the back of that. Just before we go, we also have a very special watch along on the channel. So if you haven't already or not already aware, we are going to do a watch along Wednesday to talk you through the game Newcastle United against Borussia Dortmund. So come and watch along with Loaded Mag NUFC, get your points and opinions in there, hopefully celebrate some goals with us, and it should be a really good evening. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Great questions as always. Amazing support. Thank you to the mods for all of your support as well. And of course, 00 Stato with perfect stats as always. And Mr. Chris Hall, always on the button. You guys have a fantastic Sunday evening. Best of luck for the rest of the season after Wednesday for Borussia Dortmund. But from a Loaded Mag point of view, we do love playing away. Chris, take us out.
How'd you like that?
How you like